giving up a high-end pick for a slot receiver that they're going to have to pay that kind of money to. It's just not going to happen. Teams that could use him, there's plenty, but a lot of them don't have a high-end pick for a slot receiver. One of the teams that I think kind of money to. Well, the team I think would be the best going to happen that isn't the Dolphins. I think the best case scenario for both parties is he stays there. I think it's the Bears. They have all the cap room in the world, and they have basically nobody to throw to. I mean, I liked Cameron Meredith a couple of years. Well, season before this, I thought he looked like a good young player, but he got injured. You've got nothing you can hang your hat on in that receiving core in Chicago, and you've got a young quarterback. I've got no doubt they're going to be aggressive pursuing receivers. I think this is the best security blanket type option that the team could go for. Maybe give him a big front-loaded contract for 4 or 5 years. They can, while they've got all this cap room, they can pay him his money up front, and then it won't hit him so hard down the line. That, to me, is the move that makes the most sense.
Yeah, I like that best.
Yeah.
Other than that, I mean, the Panthers, I kind of stand by with what Rob said. They're a vertical team. It just doesn't make too much sense there. Cam Newton does not like throwing that ball short. So I just don't think he'd fit what they do, even though I do think he very much fits the personality of that team. But Cam Newton, yeah, I can certainly see the Bears being a team that's interested, particularly with the new coaching staff there with Matt Nagy. But I think the Dolphins are going to be hard-pressed to get good value for him. And I think Landry's going to be very disappointed. And on top of that, I don't think any team wants to be responsible for resetting that whole slot receiver market.
Yeah.
Down the line, it could complicate things for a lot of teams. We'll move on to what I suppose is the biggest bit of news this week, though. I was shocked by this. Marcus Peters, probably the best young corner in the league.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not, actually. Jalen Ramsey.
Definitely in the top 5 of corners in the
I
league.
think when you're looking at the young corners, you're looking at Lattimore, Peters, Ramsey, and Rhodes. Those are kind of the 4 standouts to me at this point in time.
Yeah.
And he's now heading to LA, to the Rams, for peanuts. Apparently, it's a 2nd and a 4th round pick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolute peanuts. I mean, it definitely entails that they're going to be moving on from Jamarcus Joyner.
Well, they've got Trumaine Johnson's a free agent there as well.
Yeah, so
Joyner, I think they're more inclined to keep Joyner because I don't think he'd command as much money.
It's my bad.
He's got versatility. He can play safety. He can play nickel.
It wasn't Joyner I was thinking of. It was the other
Johnson.
one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for the Chiefs, this I think is a case of, they know after this year they're just not going to extend him.
Yeah.
They can't necessarily afford to do so. And he has caused no end of problems with his general attitude and immaturity there. I'll let you guys give your thoughts on this one. Does anyone want to jump on this?
It was a much-needed upgrade for the Rams. Especially in that playoff loss. Like you saw, that secondary got torched. They needed that, and if they want to become a true playoff contender, I mean, we know they're a playoff team. We know that. But if they want to become that playoff contender while they're in the playoffs, then they need to make moves like this. And I think it's a smart move on behalf of McVay.
Well, you look at who their DC is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense. If they want to play that kind of aggressive, outside the numbers type of man coverage, you need high-end corners. You can't do it without them. And in terms of playing pure man-to-man coverage, this is one of the best in football. So I think it's a perfect fit. But
just out of asking, opposite sides of the ball, who did they end up hiring as their offensive coordinator?
Who?
The Rams.
Yeah.
The Rams?
Because obviously McFleur went to us. So
I think it's Greg Olsen, isn't it?
I think it is Greg Olsen, yeah.
Because I never saw after. I'm guessing you guys think that won't really change the playbook for them at all?
No, particularly because it's one of those where McVay oversees most of it. The offensive coordinator there is pretty much there to do the play calling. But it's McVay's scheme.
This is as much as I thought.
So yeah, I wouldn't see too much change there. I think it's Olsen. I'm not 100% sure. I have to check.
Weekend at the minute. On our lads, as of 7:30 last night, they haven't got an OC.
Okay. It could well be McVay.
When you have a head coach who dominates the scheming, I think they might just
Then
we'll have to see.
Yeah. As for the Chiefs, how far back do we think this sets them? Because last year their secondary was far from decent.
It started off really good, and then their downslide happened.
Well, the entire defense fell off after that
really
first
did.
round. To be fair, they couldn't rush the passer. D Ford's a free agent. Tamba Harley probably going to be released, may even retire. Don't know how Eric Berry's going to look coming back from injury. I mean, this defense could be a mess.
Is this Chiefs team going into rebuild?
Well, they haven't got a quarterback at the minute. I know
they haven't got a quarterback. Their secondary's shot.
Well, they do have a quarterback.
I mean, it's a lot to ask for Pat Mahomes, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's an unproven quarterback, though. It's an unproven quarterback. A secondary, which even with Marcus Peters there, looked shot last year. A D-line, which for the most part is retiring.
Yeah.
They underperformed.
All you've really got there is long target, a few young, dynamic offensive players. Is this a rebuilding team now, or do they have enough pieces to go get guys this year to still be a playoff team?
Well, they don't have the money to go after players this year.
Yeah.
So they're a team, they're going to have to hope guys develop quickly, basically, defensively. I mean, there's not a huge amount of talent there. Eric Berry's going to need to be healthy, I think. Derek Johnson is a guy they released, long time middle linebacker there. They'll have to hope Reggie Ragland can step in. If Mahomes can step in and be a dynamic playmaker for them, I think this offense is good enough, if that happens, to carry this defense a little bit. But if Mahomes isn't the guy immediately, this is a team that's going to need a lot of work. It is a mini retooling for me. The defense looks like a total rebuild to me at this point.
Just quickly going to what you said about saying they do have a quarterback. Maybe it is Andy Reid after all, so maybe they were aggressive in getting Mahomes.
Well, they have a quarterback. I'm not saying he's a good quarterback at this point, but we know who it is.
Yeah, I think there's always that bit of chance that maybe Andy Reid works it out again on offense, and they can be as explosive as they once were. I think when they did fall off, it kind of was, a lot of people did blame the rookie running back and saying, like, this meteoric rise he had the first quarter of the season started to kind of die down a bit, which surprisingly he ended up leading the league in rushing yards as well.
Yeah, but I don't even think it was that. Andy Reid stopped running the ball.
That's because it's Andy Reid. That's what he does.
I think you carry on giving the guy the touches, the guy would have been a machine all year.
Yeah, possibly.
He did slow down, but
he did.
Teams,
But
I just
some running backs need more
offense.
carries. Yeah, they did. Well, we saw that.
Yeah, it's a team that doesn't have a huge amount of weapons. They've got. We were saying it all year. They've got their trifecta in Hunt, Hill, and Kelsey.
Yeah.
And the second one of those is removed from the equation, they become very easy to defend.
Yeah. So
they need to find another receiver that can step up for me. They've got some good depth at running back. I have a lot of faith in Andy Reid. He's done an amazing job developing QBs over his time coaching as a head coach in this league. So, and let's face it, it was bold of them to get rid of Alex Smith after Smith had probably his best season as a pro last year. So
I feel sorry.
This is the first off-season we're not all just laughing at Alex Smith about how meh he is. Yeah,
but it's unfair. I think a lot of people just don't actually like him. If any other quarterback had those numbers, people would be losing their minds because he had a very solid season last year.
Oh, last season he was superb.
Yeah.
Do you know what annoys me? That I just want to just throw this in because I haven't thrown this in since this off-season talk. Most years, obviously, when I started watching Titans football, right, I had no idea what I was going into the next year, what team I was going to see. The last year was the first year I was like, okay, I know what this team is, and yet now again, we have a successful record last year, and I'm back to okay, I don't know what to expect from this team again.
Well, you wanted it that way.
I did want it that way, but I'm always like in the dark about what this team is going to be. But I just wanted to throw that out there.
That's just part and parcel of being a bad team for a long time.
Yeah. But hey.
So, I mean, yeah, continuity's for good teams.
One day we'll get there.
Yeah, I do actually want to touch on that a little because you always hear teams say, "Oh, it's the bad teams that are always firing coaches." It's not that they're always firing coaches; they're never hiring the right one.
Yeah.
So I'm a firm believer that you've got to find the right guy. Sometimes it is obvious. Like look at the Giants situation.
Yeah.
Okay, they didn't give enough time to the head coach. Well, you know, he did nothing with it. That's why the Browns, Hugh Jackson, we're all in agreement. I would guess that he should probably have got sacked.
Well, yeah. How can they still have a coach that has one win in 2 seasons?
I don't know. There's just a lot of love for Hugh Jackson. He's one. I think he's just got too many friends in the league. I think that's what it is. No one ever blames him or anything, and people say he's this great player coach. And I don't know. I just think the Browns aren't ready to quit on him, even though he has next to no wins. Basically, it's bad.
Yeah. Oh, we've had a couple of other releases before we get on to some of the teams we'll be discussing this week. So the Bucks released a couple of big names. Doug Martin, he's gone.
Lewis,
I think this is a risk for the Bucks. He's due a good season next year.
Yeah, by looking of his stats, he has 2 bad, 1 good. 2 bad he's just had. So this is his good year. So
yeah. So I'm sure someone will sign him. How much he can do depends how motivated he is. Chris Baker was also released after a very disappointing season.
Yeah.
He took the money and quit.
Yeah, we all saw that one happening there.
No, I said that was the best free agency signing last year on the show.
No,
Bucks didn't pay him that much. I thought he was.
I meant during the season we saw this happening.
Oh yeah,
we saw it progressing to happen.
Absolutely. I mean, if you can remember, like what was it, 3-4 weeks in when you had those reports of TJ Watt and Chris Baker complaining that they weren't getting enough playing time. I think I summed it up where I said, play better. If you want to be on the field, play well. We just gave you not a huge amount of money, but he was signed to be a starter, play like one.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it just didn't happen. It kind of sums up the Bucks season in a nutshell, really. Those 2 players. Positions that should have been a strength that were a weakness. Tampa. You're always impressive. Derek Johnson, I just want to mention him again, released by the Chiefs, but just because he has been a constant there. Really, if there was a hall of very good, this is the kind of player that would get in.
Yeah.
Donovan McNabb type caliber player at the middle back position. Always been a lot of fun to watch. So that could be the end of his career. Were there any other releases?
Brian Cushing.
Oh yeah, Brian Cushing got released.
Yeah. Sorry.
Let's face it, we all know he's landing in Tennessee.
I could actually see him going back to the Texans. It's just because he had a really big cap number. But it wouldn't shock me if Vrabel did bring him over. You guys do have a huge need there.
We have a huge need there, and his linebacker coach is our head coach. Yeah, he's coming to Tennessee.
It's certainly possible. I don't imagine it'd be vet minimum. You can't rely on him at this point. He's had so many injuries.
No, you can't. But you can teach the young guys. We've got young guys at that position.
You do. Be a good mentor to have. And I expect you guys to add someone new there as well.
Yeah, I do, in the draft as well. Yeah. But yeah, I don't think anyone else got released. Not that I've seen.
I don't know. If they are, we'll bring them up next week. So This week, of course, we've got free agency and the draft coming up. We're going to go through some team needs. So we're going to start with the AFC North. And since you're here, Rob, we'll let you take it away with the Ravens. Just a brief summary of what holes you see on this roster based on play last season, guys you've got coming back, and what the roster looks like now.
Well, I still think our continuous need has been at edge rush. I think Judon and Suggs put up enough numbers as a tandem. There's a lot of people who worry about our O-line, but I don't think it's quite in dire straits. I think Austin Howard was a definite solid addition last offseason. Obviously, we're spending a ton on the secondary. I was believing our linebacker for as long as CJ's there. But I still think it kind of ties into the offense as well. The scheme, again, is something that worries me. I think we've got the pieces there, but it just seems to be something just doesn't quite work out. The Bengals game especially was one of the most confusing matches I saw all season. I think if ever we needed a situation to get into the playoffs, would be having that defense on the field against Andy Dalton the last minutes of the game at home. Any other Ravens fan, this is the perfect situation. We'll get our pick six in his final march onto the playoffs, but it wasn't to be. It's tough because Brandon Carr had a really, really good season. It was unfortunate with Jimmy Smith that he went out early. But again, it was just difficult that things just didn't work out. So, I mean, probably for me, definite edge rush is definitely probably the main one we really need to try and get. I know prior to the show is talking about Pernell McPhee being released. I think he could be someone that would be useful coming back to us. Just trying to utilize the best of it. What worries me is kind of what you said, Simon, as well, is if Suggs either loses a day or we see his eventual demise, that's going to really hurt us because Suggs had an unreal season last year. He had almost 10 sacks or 10 sacks exactly, a lot of forced fumbles, and he had a lot of hurries that led to our massive interception tally in the end of the season. So I think both sides really need to kind of start planning for what we can do next. And with Dean P still there, it's just a bit tough that, well, what's going to happen?
I agree with the defensive line being a big need, because I think as well when Brandon Williams is missing, after trading Jernigan away and when Brandon Williams went down, you saw a massive drop-off in the play of that front seven. So I think maybe getting a young nose tackle just for those situations could be an idea. I look at the offense. I think defensively, this team just needs some depth, mate, and that edge rusher. But the secondary looks great, especially, as you mentioned, with Smith coming back. And, of course, first-round pick last year, Marlon Humphrey. You expect to see an improvement from him. But I look at the receiver position, the tight end position, and running back, because this team hasn't had a star at running back since Ray Rice.
Yeah, it's been tough at running back. I mean, we've tried to use like the numbers way and having like we had Terrence West, we had Alex Collins and a few other guys there trying to plug in, but nothing substantial really picked up there. I made a mistake. Dean Pease has gone, actually. He's no longer our DC. We promoted someone to our DC, so hopefully things might get better there. But yeah, on offense, it's been tough because I think that I get hope from how we used Mike Wallace at times. I know he had that really big long touchdown against the Steelers, and that made me feel like he might still have just enough in the tank to make those big plays. Tight end, yeah, I definitely agree. I think Pitter going down last year was tough for us, and a lot of guys have been used in rotation, and we haven't got that every down receiver that we can go to. So yeah, I'll definitely add that to one of our needs for sure.
Indeed. And offensive line, I have seen a lot of people mention it. I thought, considering when Assembly went down, I thought that line was going to fall apart.
Yeah.
And that didn't really happen. So they're getting back. And yeah, for me, Assembly might be the best lineman in football. Certainly one of the top 4 or 5.
Yeah, I've heard
so that would be a big improvement. Ronnie Stanley has been a really good player for these first 2 seasons. He doesn't get nearly enough credit.
No.
So every team needs more linemen. I don't think it's as big a need as some suggest, but So who are some of the guys you can see? I don't know if you've been looking too much at some of the draft prospects this year, or guys in free agency that you could see coming in and really improving this Ravens team.
I don't know. I think if Ozzy pulls like a Smith type of a Steve Smith miracle again, where we have this old guy put up crazy numbers late in his career, that would be nice to see. It looks like probably the best available is Allen Robinson of Jacksonville, but it would be foolish if they don't end up re-signing him. So it's gonna be a tough one. I just don't have a great deal of confidence in, because I think Morningweg and Harbour are like best of friends. I think we could go 0-16 and that guy will still have a job, and it's hard for me to accept because I just don't believe in how he schemes, and it reflects really badly on Flacco because Flacco isn't necessarily utilised as much as he should. Like this weird thing we've been doing all most of like last year was these short screen passes to whoever. Could be a tight end on 3rd and long. We'll still throw a screen to a tight end and hope for him to do something. And that's not been encouraging. So it's been tough to see that. But I think receivers, I still think with most competent OCs, they'll be able to make something work with what we have, especially with the O-line. I think the O-line was overlooked last year. Yonder going out was extremely difficult to deal with because he's...
Oh, yeah, Yonder.
Yeah, he's been one of our best players in the time I've been watching the NFL.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
We had a young guy come in, Alex Collins last year, who was useful. We had Scorer as well, who was useful. But again, it's just going down to the scheme. I don't think we're utilizing these guys well enough. But we'll see. Maybe something will change, hopefully. But at the minute, yeah, I'm not optimistic.
I'm certain we'll see a running back in the draft. I think that's a given. It's a deep draft again for at the running back spot. What do you think first round? What would you be looking for as if you were Aussie?
Well, it's tough. Like everyone's kind of steering us towards Orlando Brown, the tackle, which I wouldn't have any problems with. And you can't ever have enough linemen for sure. But it would have been nice to get like the best available running back at that spot for sure to kind of.
Well, the thing with this year's draft, I mean, from the guys I've seen, it's like you've got Barkley, who's going to be top 3 or 4
easily,
and then after that, I don't know if we see anyone else in the first round.
Yeah, I've not heard a lot about the other running backs. I think there's a guy from Bama who's involved.
Darius Guice is the guy you probably hear the second, but is number 2 on most guys' boards from LSU. Seen a lot of people mock him to the Steelers. But
I was on about Nick Chubb and Sony Michel.
The Georgia guys.
Yeah, but it's tough. I still believe in Alex Collins. He had a couple of really nice plays last year, which was encouraging. But it's hard to imagine someone who kind of had such a solid year for it to replicate. But yeah, ideally, I'd say for sure running back in the first round would be good. I think it will take a bit of heat off Flacco, and we'll probably utilize our O-line more in getting some better running schemes. But everyone that has it on their mock draft that we're going to take Orlando Brown, so there must be some truth in that. We'll see.
Could well be. I always expect that they'll just go with the highest rated player from Alabama every year.
That's normally what we do for sure.
Ozzy does love his alma mater. So we'll move on to your arch nemesis. Does anyone in particular want to take the Steelers, or should I take the lead on this one?
You take the lead.
There's a lot of disdain for the Steelers amongst you three. I only just realised how much hatred there is.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Steelers, what is there to say about them last year? An amazing year, capped with...
Just have to say Antonio Brown, that's about it.
Yeah, capped with another defeat to the Jags because for some reason, Steelers are at their worst when they're playing against inferior teams. And I don't mean that as a slight on the Jags, but they are an inferior team to this Steelers group. I mean, the fact the Steelers put up 42 points in that game says all you need to know about this offense. I mean, there are no real holes in this group, assuming Lev Bell returns.
Yeah.
I mean, the offensive line is loaded. Antonio Brown is frankly unfair, and the league should consider banning him Because
I wouldn't mind that.
he's like a steroids for your offense. It's just ridiculous. I mean, with him and Bell, you could be talking about the number one player at each of their respective positions.
Easily.
A couple of great linemen in De Castro. Pouncey had a really good season again. They're better at tackle than people think. Like Villanueva's a really good player there. Ramon Foss. Yeah, they're just loaded. Roethlisberger started the season slow, but he was great at the end. If he's healthy, yeah, no real holes, just depth.
Yeah.
Defensively, however, I do think there are some problems. I worry about their pass rush. I'm going to say this a lot as we carry on with this kind of series, talking about teams' needs, because there's just not a lot of great pass rushes in the league right now. Cam Hayward was their best rusher last year and really he's more of an interior rusher guy. TJ Watt will continue to improve, but I think they had a couple of misses in the first round with Jarvis Jones and Brad but Dupree was not good this year, in my opinion. He doesn't offer enough against the run. That's a spot they need to improve. The secondary is still the biggest problem there. Joe Hayden isn't a long-term solution there. That's a problem. And all of a sudden, Bakker is a need with the Ryan Shazier situation. Don't know if he's going to be able to come back healthy. I would hope so. He's a lot of fun to watch, but I don't think they can rely on that being the case. But QB also a need. They do need to start planning ahead for the Roethlisberger retirement. So
who's that they took last year? Josh Dobbs from Tennessee. They drafted him last year, didn't they?
I forgot. Maybe.
Yeah, they drafted him last year. He might benefit from working under Big Ben.
He may well do. When I look at this year's draft, that I could see the Steelers taking one of the guys that are sort of projected for the first round if they get there. Baker Mayfield reminds me of Roethlisberger a lot. He doesn't have the arm, but his kind of schoolyard style of running around, ad-libbing play reminds me of a lot of Ben. So I think that'd be a great fit. Mayfield is incredibly difficult to mock because he doesn't have a great skill set. And apparently he's a bit of a party boy. So very difficult to figure out where he's going to fall in this year's draft. And then you've got Josh Allen, the kid from Wyoming, who just has an absolute howitzer. And frankly, he should not be picked in the first round if you watch his tape, but he's going to go in the first round. He would be perfect for this Steelers offense if they could get him developed, but there's just no chance of him getting there. In free agency, the Steelers just do not have much room to maneuver, so I don't think they're going to do too much. They've got to try and get Lev Bell under contract. If not, look for him to get a running back early in the draft. I could see a guy like Doug Martin being picked up for, next to nothing. If Lev Bell does go, get a guy in the draft and then see what happens there. But you're not going to replace Lev Bell. He offers too much in the pass game and the run game. If you're the Steelers, things look pretty good. They should be competitive again next year. Try and fix that secondary. It's not even a disaster. That's the thing. It's still an okay group. They got some youngsters there, and Artie Burns and Davis just need to maybe step it up a little. I look for them to basically take either an edge rusher, a DB, or a running back at the end of round one, and try and get some vets at those positions just to fill holes in free agency. They won't be too active early on. It'll be at the back end. So there's no point even throwing big names out there because it's not happening. And Lev Bell or bust. That's how I look at the Steelers off season.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think they need to get something in that secondary to help them out there.
My worry is the lack of depth there. If Hayden were to go down and he's got a big injury history, then there would be some problems there. But considering where they're picking as well, it's quite difficult. Not necessarily sure who's going to be there. It's not a great draft for the cornerback position. So we'll see how it winds up. So anyone want to take the Bengals?
Are The Bengals need a lot of help.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do. We'll sort of text. I mean,
but the Bengals, I think you have to start on that O-line.
Yeah, absolutely. They've been great on the O-line for so long.
Losing Whitworth didn't help.
No.
Losing Whitworth, losing Zietler.
Yeah, that's where they need to start, whether it be in free agency or not. They have to start on that O-line and build from there. I mean, we've seen Andy Dalton can produce when he's being protected. But if you don't protect the guy, I mean, you might as well render him and AJ Green pointless in that offense. I think they need to get back to their ways of being able to run the ball with the two backs they've got. I think the two backs they've got can still provide good depth.
Well, Jeremy Hill's going to be gone, but they got Mixon.
Yeah.
Bernard was good again.
Yeah, so I think start on that O-line and that offense will build from there. Because the defense has got pieces there to keep you competitive in games. The defense played pretty well last year.
Yeah, they were better than I thought.
Yeah.
Some of them young players they drafted, like Jordan Willis and Cole Lawson, really kind of stepped up as rookies, play quite well. They should continue to get better. Who's the corner? It was their first round pick not too long ago. Kirkpatrick. He played well this year.
He did. He played very well.
The concern for them is, it was a contract year and he'd been pretty bad before that. So, do they pay him? That's always a question mark, because it's the kind of guy I'd probably want to get a 1-year deal. But I don't think the Bengals are going to have that opportunity. So, they're going to have to take a risk and pay him, or otherwise they open up another need at corner. I think they could do with a safety.
Yeah.
When I think back to them a few years ago when they had Reggie Nelson, they were pretty good at the safety position. I think this is a good draft for it. It's certainly a position I can see him going in the first round. And the weapons look good on paper. AJ Green. They just need John Ross to actually be an NFL player next year.
Yeah.
That would help. Not often you see a top 10 pick do as little as him. All three of those receivers, though, struggled during the regular season. I guess you feel better, Arnie, as a Titans fan, because Corey Davis had a big playoff game.
Yeah, I mean, that playoff game was promising for us. We see the upside of Corey Davis. But these guys, the two other guys, showed nothing.
All three of them. Corey Davis in the regular season did next to nothing as well.
This is true.
Very disappointing. So they need to get something from him. Tyler Eifert is a free agent. How do you pay Tyler Eifert? This is a guy who will give you good quality production for about 3 or 4 games.
Yeah.
So, and the big problem teams have this year in free agents, there's some good guards. I expect to see the Bengals go after one of them. But I also think this is the team that's going to sign Jawan James. Because they need 2 tackles. Sense. They need 2 tackles. I can see them getting James. I think they'll pay him. And then it's just a question of who they like at guard. There's older guys like Josh Sitton. He was released by the Bears. I think he'd be a good player they could plug in. They could throw money at a guy like Andrew Norwell of the Panthers. But they need to bring in a tackle and a guard, in my opinion, to try and replace what they had with Whitworth and Zietler to try and get that offense going again, because I feel like the pieces are there. And I think one of the reasons they retained Hugh Jackson, as well as the fact he's clearly got porn of Mike Brown or something, definitely got something incriminating there. This team, I think with what they did defensively, is not as far away. Last year, we were all talking about how this team was in full rebuild mode.
Yeah.
I don't actually think that's the case, having seen how well some of their young players did, particularly on the defensive side.
Yeah, they just need to progress the young players.
Well, they just need to fix that offense, because that O-line was broken, and we saw Andy Dalton needs help around him. Last year, that offense at times was hope he can hold the ball long enough to throw a pass to AJ Green.
Yeah.
Or dump it off to Gio Bernard. And that's all they had.
Yeah.
It was pretty bad. So look look for them to improve the line through free agency. I think safety in round 1, and unless they can get one of those O linemen, but it's not a great group. Quentin Nelson probably won't get to them, and the tackle group I wouldn't feel great about picking where they select. So Derwin James is one I could certainly see happening. Big athletic safety, I think could be a great fit. And the Browns will team up on this one because
I'm excited for the Browns.
well, I mean, we're talking about what does this team need. It's probably quick to say what don't they need.
Yeah. Let's start with a head coach.
Well, they can't get one of them in free agency or the draft. So
Really not.
So what they don't need is, in theory, the O-line should be very good. They invested a lot of money in that last year. That's it. I think they need everything else.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the O-line, you can kind of forgive the bad play of the O-line this year just purely for the fact that we've seen when you build a whole new O-line, it takes time for that O-line to gel.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the O-line will become good. They just need that time together, a couple of seasons together to get that going. But they just need everything, as far from backs to receivers.
They do. And in regards to the O-line struggles as well.
They definitely don't need a right defensive end.
When your QB is a rookie and a very raw one at that, I don't think that helps. No, I think it's quite hard to protect when you've got a guy like Sean Kaiser who just at times did not look like he knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
So, you know what I'll do for this one, because there is so much they need. We'll all have a go at being the GM of the Browns for this offseason. So, Arnie, you can go first since you kind of already started.
Well, it's funny you mentioned this. I've actually been watching a lot of Madden videos of guys rebuilding teams and stuff like that on YouTube recently. And one guy actually did the Browns, and it took him, I think it was 18 seasons to win the Super Bowl. Wow. So, yeah. But for me, you've got the O-line in place. You've got to start. I mean, you've got the number 1 pick and you've got the 5th pick in the draft. I think you go against what fourth pick, so close enough. I think you go against what every single NFL analyst have said, and you draft Barkley number 1.
I'm with you there. Absolutely.
You get that running back because I mean this year there's depth in the first round, especially early on with quarterback. So you get that stud running back in there behind that O-line, which should have a lot more protection on it. Then at number 4, you get your quarterback. You've got Josh Gordon as your receiver. You can get a couple of little guys, slot guys in free agency. That offense then should be there.
Yeah, and Njoku looked quite good last year, actually. They don't need a tight end.
No, Njoku looked really good. I was quite envious because it's a guy I wanted to pick up in last year.
Yeah.
But, I mean, defensively side of the ball, you build on that pass rush. You build with Myles Garrett. You build that way. And then you start going into a heavy blitz scheme, basically like a zone blitz scheme. And then you eventually start getting in those corners and stuff. But you've got to start with that defense. You've got the weapons and you've got the ammunition this year to do it.
The only issue I have with that is that if they lose out on Fitzpatrick, because I think if they can get Fitzpatrick at the 4th pick, I think it helps give.
I agree. Fitzpatrick would be my pick at 4. Yeah.
And I think that with Garrett there, Kirksey had a solid season again. You've got Jabril, who's a bit versatile. It's hard to really see what his best kind of position is. I think if you have Fitzpatrick there to kind of help strengthen that secondary, I think they can definitely be on something with that defense for sure.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. I think they've got to go free agency for the QB. They can't go with a rookie again.
Where do you reckon they go, though? Do you reckon, I mean, you've got the options of Case Keenum, possibly Teddy Bridgewater, possibly Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
I mean, you do everything you can to get Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I mean, they have all the cap room in the world because they're not paying anyone.
No.
So,
no.
Other than Joe Thomas. So you've got to try and get Cousins, except it probably won't happen. I don't think it will.
Yeah.
But if not, I mean, we saw what you can do with a guy like Keenum. Teddy Bridgewater, maybe. I don't think you can rely on him, though, so I wouldn't if I was them. Even Tyrod Taylor, I think, especially if you get Saquon Barkley. We've seen what Tyrod Taylor can do, or any efficient scrambling quarterback can do for your run game. He doesn't turn the ball over much. And at the end of the day, he's an improvement over what you've had. He'll win some games for you. And he might even not win enough games that you can have a high pick next year. But that's what I'd do if I were them. I agree with Rob 100%. Minkah Fitzpatrick at 4. He can play corner. He can play safety. I think you're getting a player you can put in straight away and he'll contribute. And yes, Saquon Barkley's the best player in the draft. Just take him. Just take him.
Yeah.
And
I mean, for me, I'm really hoping the Browns do take him. Please, for the love of God, do not let the Colts take him. I don't want to face that with Andrew Luck twice a year if Andrew Luck comes back.
Yeah. I mean, you already got to deal with Leonard Fournette for the rest of his.
Yeah, your division's hard anyway, Arnie. It's not going to get easier.
Yeah, the way this division's going, man, I don't like our chances.
It's tough.
It's a rough division.
It's going to be interesting. But this team also needs to find a leader on the defensive side. They're a team that should look at a guy like Derek Johnson, I think. He might not add much on the field at this point, but he brings some leadership, some professionalism.
Yeah.
And I think he'd be a great presence in the locker room. So I think a guy like that, even a guy like Brian Cushing.
I was just about to bring his name up, actually. I think Cushing would be a great guy as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. They
brings
may
that
not
leadership.
The on-field product in terms of their own play, but I think they'll help this team develop. And offensively, I just think if you get Barkley, and this is a team that should also throw money at Allen Robinson.
Yeah.
Because they can.
Has everyone lost faith in Corey Coleman just because of that drop? Because I thought he had a really good season last year. The other Browns.
He had moments, but for me, he's been a bit unreliable in terms of... It's not just that drop. He's had drops since he was drafted, and he's been a little injury prone. So he had moments.
But was it not more to do with that they had to rely on him as a number one, whereas if he's playing alongside Josh Gordon, he might get a good balance of snaps that might utilise him?
Well, I think if you've got Robinson in there, that is a threesome with Njoku and then Saquon Barkley out of the backfield.
Yeah, true.
Is potentially very, very dangerous. And just with Josh, again, you don't want to rely on Josh Gordon. Just don't do it. Why would they rely on Josh Gordon again?
That's the thing. The Browns could even go down the route that Tennessee went down, obviously, with the whole exotic smash mouth, and rely on your best threat at the moment, which is your safest threat, which is Njoku. And then obviously if you've got Barkley, you run that same sort of offense.
Yeah.
It's going to be fascinating. They've got so many picks as well.
It's insane, isn't it? How many years in a row is this? 2, 3?
Yeah, it's not just that. They've got 2 in the top of the second, and then they've got either 2 or 3 picks in the third. I mean, eventually it's got to come together for these guys. I don't think this is the year unless they can get Cousins.
Cousins and Barkley, and where they might be onto something.
Yeah, if they can get Cousins, then I think they could. If not, I think Tyrod Taylor, Case Keenum, get one of those 2 guys. They'll be able to steer the ship and at least win you some games next year.
Yeah.
And they've got the potential for those pieces. I mean, if you add Robinson and Barkley, that offense does look really nice on paper.
Yep.
So, but defensively, it's tough. It's just hard to see him being good next year. There's just so many holes there. Yeah. I mean, the secondary's atrocious. It's just terrible.
Yeah.
Poor Myles Garrett. He's got a lot of work to do. So yeah, that's them. I would go on to the NFC North, but I think we've overrun a wee bit. So we'll leave the NFC North next time. May have been a bit ambitious trying to go through 8 teams. But before I start wrapping up, is there anything anyone wants to throw out there?
No.
I did post on our little page about
you did, and we were going to mention it. So
yeah, about the Cousins landing spots. Where's everyone's head at with that?
I mean, I'll go from where I said. I think the Jets would be a good landing point for him. Purely of the basis, okay, if you still had your receiver from last year, who I can't remember his name,
Robbie Addison.
Yeah, obviously he's probably going to be suspended for a while now.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, if you had the weapons there, I think the Jets would be a good spot for him because, I mean, the Jets played well last year. I just think that Cousins would give him that extra edge. You go get that receiver for them, and I think the Jets are a team that could maybe contend. Probably not quite there, but I just think the Jets is a good place for him to go, especially with the deep ball.
A lot of that comes from your little soft spot for the Jets, though.
It does, but I don't know why. I just there's reasons behind it, but I can't quite explain them. I just think the Jets would be a good spot.
I think the biggest thing with Cousins is that we need to know whether he's after the money or if he's after a ring. Once he decides exactly what he wants to do, it will start to narrow down.
He has said he wants to go to a competitor or a team where he can win immediately.
Because what's stopping him going to a team for, what, he's 28 right now?
He's older than that, 30, I believe.
Try and win now with someone, whether it be, the Vikings. Some people are saying the Broncos are still a Super Bowl contender. They're a quarterback away. I think there's deeper issues there, especially with that O-line. I'm not.
I think offensively there are. I think people are looking at the defense and thinking they're still legitimate.
Yeah.
He's 29. You were both close.
No.
Right. Because I would like to see him go somewhere where he's trying to win a ring because I'd like Palmer's probably the last player really who done that, who kind of followed the money and then eventually ended up being late in his career, finding himself finally having that opportunity to try and win the ring. And obviously that didn't work out. He doesn't want to go down that path, that's for sure.
Yeah, when I look at the teams that will be after him, and if you're making that divvying line of contenders, I think immediate contenders, the Vikings would be spot number 1. Like, absolutely. Whether they can get that done, I'm not sure. But I would have had the Jags in there before they signed Blake Bortles, which we didn't talk about, so we'll laugh at that in a second. And the Broncos, I do think there are some issues there, but they've got that high pick. I think they could get Quentin Nelson, number 5, to address that O-line. Find a running back. I'm sure they'll be able to find another one because they just need another complementary piece there. And they should still be competitive, especially that AFC West. As much as I think the Chargers are great, they are still the Chargers. And until they finish in September with a decent record, I can't trust them. So I'm with most who favours the Broncos as the most likely spot. If he's being really smart about it, though, I'd go to the Vikings. You make them a favourite in the NFC almost immediately. I think it's an upgrade on Case Keenum. And if he's after the money, well, you go to the Browns.
Yeah.
I think the Browns can offer more money than the Jets. And the Browns, I think the Jets are further away than the Browns.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, and I remembered my reasoning for the Jets. Their offensive coordinator, Jeremy Bates, runs a very similar scheme to what he ran, to what Kyle Shanahan ran at the Redskins when he had his ridiculous year.
Right.
That was my reasoning.
Fair enough.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't see it. And well, before we wrap up, Blake Bortles. Oh, Jacksonville. It was all looking so positive.
They just made Kevin Byard an All-Pro for the next 3 years.
Funny stuff. I mean, not much an asset. It's a 3-year deal. They were on the hook. One of the problems I heard was that he's got an upcoming physical and they were going to have to pay him 19 million next year.
Wow.
If he failed the physical. So they decided to redo the deal. Last year's tough though, because he wasn't good enough for them to feel confident about giving him a long-term deal. Hence why it's only 3 years. But he also wasn't bad enough that you could just say, well, obviously we're just going to get rid of him. Whoever we get him will be an improvement. So if he'd just been a little more one way or the other, it might have made life a lot easier. But it's too much money. 18 million a year for Blake Bortles.
Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Do we all think this is a mistake?
Oh yeah.
It's hard to understand the thinking behind that one.
So if we throw the hypothetical out there, so say they let Bortles go, which again they probably couldn't have really done because they'd have ended up on the hook for that money because of the injury situation if he didn't pass the physical. But if they just bit the bullet and done that, would we all say they'd be a better team with like Tyrod Taylor, Case Keenum, one of them many free agents that's out there?
I would
unequivocally say they'd be a better team.
I would say yes, because they've kind of got him in this conservative play. He's not necessarily doing anything extravagant. Obviously, they've been quite reliant on the run game. But I think it just gives them that added factor to have a quarterback who's proven they can win games off their own back. Bortles has never done that, to my knowledge.
Yeah. Arnie, are you in the same boat?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. They could have definitely improved. It's Blake Bortles. I was complimentary of him at times this season, but I like to think that's because I'm impartial. But he's still rubbish until he proves to me otherwise. So,
I mean,
that's that.
The Jags could have got in could have got in actually a decent quarterback, and then our division might not have been a laughing stock because Blake Bortles is still there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Jacksonville. They just don't know how to move forward properly.
No.
And Dan has posted up some breaking news, so I guess we can discuss this now whilst it's as topical as it's going to get. Apparently, the league is going to discuss changing defensive pass interference from a spot foul to a straight-up 15-yarder.
Wow.
And it also is a countermeasure to increase the amount of illegal contact called to try and limit the amount of hand fighting that occurs.
Oh, I think before they need to do that, they need to sort out what is a catch. They
have said that's going to happen. And we will do an episode where we come up with our own version of the catch rule that I'm sure will be better than.
And another thing they need to do before they start changing yardage of penalties and stuff is to make penalties reviewable.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you cannot challenge a penalty.
Yeah.
Certain penalties. I don't want to live in a world where holding's challengeable.
Yeah.
No, not holding, but like big game-changing plays, like stuff like defensive pass interference, offensive pass interference. I mean, I know there's been quite a few, probably in each of our games this year. Which
the one I would say they need to make reviewable is some of these hits on receivers, because I understand they want to give them players that protection. But to me, that's where the most egregious mistakes end up.
Yeah.
Because there's not much grey area to those. That, like a pass interference, there's so much, it's down to your perception of what interference is. But, hitting someone in the head is hitting someone in the head. And when you see a clean hit that gets penalised and you see the replay, and you're like, well, that's the one that, to me, that should be reviewable, because just pees me off. It's the worst. There's nothing worse than seeing a drive kept alive. You make a great defensive play and it's a 15-yard penalty because the refs are going to err on the side of player safety, which they're told to do. So that would be my thoughts on that. With regards to this, I think we talked about this before when there were suggestions it may go for. I hate it. It should not be a 15-yard penalty because to me it encourages if you're lost track of where the ball is in the air on a deep shot, just take the receiver out.
Yeah.
If you're, I'm not going to make a play unless I get lucky. I'll just tackle him.
You'd save a touchdown, yeah. So.
Well, you save a bunch of yards. Like, all right, I could give up 50, 40 yards, or I can give up 15. I'll give up the 15.
Yeah.
I just think it's too easy for defenders. I don't think that will happen as often as it may immediately spring to mind, but it will happen at some point or another.
But I don't think they should change it. It'll be like the holding in basketball kind of call where they do it just to get the time.
Dark, yeah.
It will be like that, and I think you should move along more to being able to review them and being able to challenge them rather than moving it. Because then players are going to have to be more careful. If you can challenge it, players are going to automatically be more careful with what they're doing down the field. So I think challenging it, they should be looking at that rather than changing it to a 15-yard.
Yeah. With this illegal contact rule, sometimes they name rules. Like if this goes through, do you reckon they'd call it the Seahawks rule or the Sherman rule?
More than likely.
The Vikings are also somewhat guilty of this, as much as I love Xavier Rhodes. He got away with a lot last year.
Yes, he did.
But it is what it is. I DBs, I'll never criticise him for trying it because they got to make their own help sometimes.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be happy with that going through again. I think life is hard. Do we not have enough passing stats in the game right now?
Yeah, true.
No, we don't need to help these offenses anymore. It's fine. Let the defenses have one. But does anyone have a different opinion on this pass interference thing? Did everyone think it should be a spot foul, or should they simplify it?
Just simplify it.
So you want the 15-yard penalty?
No, I don't want the 15-yard. I want it to be... Well, I've already said, I want them to leave it and then being able to review it because, again, as you said, defenders will abuse the system.
They sure will. All right. Well, that is that. Long episode today. Thanks very much for joining us for the first time, Rob. I'm sure you'll be back in the future.
Cheers.
And, good stuff. Of course, we got free agency just around the corner. We're going to try and get an episode in, much like today, where we discuss each of the divisions. Just before free agency begins, we'll probably do a special episode if you guys want to join in on that. Just probably on the night free agency is going to go down when we'll offer up some last minute predictions, that kind of thing. I think that could be pretty good. Yeah. Maybe make it like a live stream, have people question us and stuff.
I think free agency is going to be nuts this year. I've got a feeling.
Yeah. I think there'll be more trades than ever. I think the league starts to move that way.
Yes, it is.
So it should be good. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. It's been a pleasure as always. If you could like, share, subscribe, check out the Patreon, all that good stuff. Be greatly appreciated. And just check out the channel in future. There'll be lots of new stuff coming up. As always, have a good one and go Bucks.